After I got shot, I turned to my friend Landon and I asked him to hold my hand because I was scared.
Where were you when you asked him to hold your hand?
I was in the classroom floor.
What do you remember about being on the floor? Did you stay conscious or did you pass out at some point?
I passed out.
What was going through your head when this happened?
I don't remember.
Do you remember being afraid?
Yeah.
Emotional testimony out of that Georgia courtroom. Today is day 5 of testimony in the Gave My Son a Gun murder trial. Colin Gray, the father of the accused school shooter, is facing 29 counts for his alleged role in the deadly school shooting at Apalachee High School back in 2024. Prosecutors say the defendant gifted his son a gun despite being aware of alleged mental health issues. Happening now, a key witness has just taken the stand, the defendant's mother-in-law and the school shooter's grandmother. Let's watch.
Tell us about yourself. Who are you?
I'm Colt's grandmother.
Okay.
Junie's grandmother. Colby's grandmother.
Okay. And your daughter is who?
Marcy.
And that is Colt's mother?
Yes.
Okay. And what do you do?
I'm a retired educator.
Okay. And how long were you an educator?
43 years.
Okay. And where do you live?
I live in Fitzgerald, Georgia.
Okay. And how far away is that from here?
About 4 hours.
Okay. And so you said you were Colt's grandmother?
Yes.
What did he call you?
Mamu.
Mamu? Okay. Is that spelled a certain way or just?
M-A-M-O-O.
Okay. So are you one of those grandparents that doesn't see your grandkids very often, or are you a grandparent that's fully immersed in their lives?
No, I've tried to be fully immersed.
Okay.
With all of them. My other 3 are in Florida.
Okay. I was about to say, do you have other children?
Yes.
Okay. And where do they live?
Toby lives in Columbus, and Annie lives in Tavares, Florida.
Okay. Do you have other grandchildren?
Yes. Annie has 3.
Okay.
Toby has 2.
Okay. So, in the hierarchy of your grandchildren by age, where does Colt fall?
Colt is the 3rd grandchild.
Okay. And in this family, where does he fall?
In his family,
Uh-huh.
he's the oldest.
Okay. When Colt was younger, did he have issues with impulsivity, having a short fuse?
Impulsivity more than a short fuse.
Okay. Do you remember talking to a GBI agent by the name of Agent Maddox back in, I believe that was September of 2024?
I guess. I mean, I talked to a lot of them.
Okay.
I don't remember all their names.
Okay. And this would have been shortly after the shooting that had happened?
Yeah. That was when most of the conversations took place.
Okay. And do you remember telling her that about Colt that he's always been very impulsive, short fuse, even as a younger child?
Judge, I think he's leading. It's his witness. I don't know if he needs to refresh her memory but at this point he's leading witness.
Your Honor, I asked her about an issue regarding Colt. She gave a different answer than she had in a previous statement, an inconsistent statement. I then talked to her about that inconsistent statement, got the reference for it, and then asked her if that was what she said in the statement. She confirmed that is what she said in the statement. It wasn't a leading question. I didn't say, didn't you say this? I said, did you say this? And she confirmed that she did.
Mr. Grant, I think that's an improper way to do it.
All right. For that specific question, we'll leave that.
Okay. So where did Colt, where was he living when he was a young child? Where did he grow up?
They grew up in Statham.
Okay. Is that here in Bear County?
Mm-hmm.
At some point, did they move from that house?
They moved from Statham to Gainesville.
Okay. And how long did they live in Gainesville?
2.5, 3 months.
Okay. And where did they move from Gainesville?
And then they moved to Cumming.
Okay. And how long did they stay in Cumming?
They were in Cumming a couple of months.
Okay. And did something happen in Cumming that you thought that they needed to go somewhere else?
Well, they had moved 3 times and they were getting evicted.
Okay.
And I told Marcy that I thought they should just think about moving to Fitzgerald, getting out of the hustle and bustle of the city, get a break. They could live in my mom's house.
I was about to ask, was there an opportunity for living arrangements in Fitzgerald?
Yeah, my mom had died recently, and her house was still fully furnished, dishes, everything. And I told her, I said, you know, y'all talk about it, but it's there, and you're welcome to it.
Okay. And at some point, did they actually move down to that
Yeah.
house? Okay. And was that in March of 2020? Okay. How far is that from your house, that house?
About a half mile.
Okay. And did they start school there?
Yes.
Okay. And 2020, of course, that was the COVID year. Tell me about the situation with schooling and how that worked.
Well, they went to school for less than a week.
Okay.
And so what I did was I let Colt and Jenny come to my house, and I did school with them.
Okay.
And then we finally got them computers.
Okay.
Laptops that they could use. I wasn't familiar with how to use them, but they seemed to know what to do because I retired before all that. But
Well, let me ask you a question. I had children in school in Barrow County at that time. In Barrow County, March of 2020, they just stopped school. They weren't doing the digital learning. It was just school ended early. Is that what happened in Fitzgerald County?
no, they were still doing school. They did some digital. Mostly it was educational packets. The teachers would do packets of work for the grade levels.
Okay.
And you could go by the office and pick up their packets and bring
Okay.
them home. And they had library books that the kids could pick up and take. I could pick up and take.
I was about to say, did you do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
so
they did those at my house.
Okay. Now, in September of 2021, we got a new school year. Where does Colt go to school that year?
Colt was in the 5th grade, and he went to the elementary school,
In 2021, when you went to 6th grade, where did he go?
the middle school.
Okay. And we've had some testimony about Colt doing a search on a computer. Were you aware of that?
I was not for a good while.
Okay.
Marcy didn't share a lot of those things with me, and Coley was working all the time. But
At some point, did you become aware?
yeah, I did. I did not know about the search for abuse, but I did know about the search to how to kill your dad.
Okay. And about how long after that happened did Marcy tell you about that?
I think it was a couple of months.
Okay. So probably still within 2021? Okay. Now, at some point, did defects come into play with the family?
Yes.
And who was it that initiated that?
Well, I went to the school to meet with the counselor, Sujette Giddens now, and I discussed with her my concerns about things that were happening with Colt and his mother at home, and that I wanted her to be aware that we were going to call defects.
Okay.
And she said that they were going to call, and I said, well, I'd rather you wait and let us call because I think it would make a bigger impression on her if we did it. But then I found out she'd already called them, and then she called them again after we called them.
Okay, so you also called defects? Okay.
I didn't. My other daughter did.
Okay.
I couldn't pick up the phone, and I couldn't do it. So she did. I asked her if she would call them, and she did.
So she did it at your direction? Okay. At some point, did the family leave your mother's house and move away?
They did. They left in. I'm not sure. I want to say it was January, but it might have been. No, let me think. I got some notes here. Let me look.
Okay.
Maybe I can remember. They went back to Jefferson. I've got November here.
Okay. So would it have been the same?
Yes, she's brought notes. Certainly, we would have the opportunity to look at those.
That's after.
I'm sorry.
Down, so.
Yes, sir.
Do you need those to refresh your memory?
I just have, like, the dates certain things happened
Okay.
that I thought you might ask.
Okay. And did you make those notes yourself?
Yep.
Okay, and they're from your own memory? Okay.
No, they're from my notes that I've kept along since things started happening. I just kind of put them together.
Okay. And when did you start making these notes? Back kind of when you're talking about with the defect stuff, or more recently?
Well, when we called defects, I sort of went back and started making a sequential thing when they left Statham, when they left Gainesville. I don't know why. I just thought there might be a point in time that defects asked me questions, and with all that was going on, I couldn't keep it all straight.
Okay. So these aren't notes that you created after the shooting. These are notes you created well before that.
No. Mm-mm.
Okay. Are they more contemporaneous in time as to when these events are happening?
Yeah. Okay. Just mostly dates.
Okay. So you're saying.
All right, watching along with you at home, let's bring in my guest for this hour. In Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, criminal defense attorney and former district attorney Matthew Mangino. Nice to see you on this busy Friday. What do you make of Grandma's testimony? In the defense, they should have a right to look at the notes.
Oh, yeah, they certainly should. I mean, if she kept these notes, during the time that she was beginning to become concerned about Colt's conduct and about his mental health and other issues. And it's perfectly legitimate to do that. But the prosecutor has an opportunity. I mean, the defense has an opportunity to look at these notes because number one, you shouldn't necessarily testify from notes that you haven't furnished to the other side. And secondly, there's always the ability, once you have those notes, to make sure that she's testifying consistent with those notes. And, typically what we see is those notes are provided to the attorney. They're shared with the other side. And then you have an opportunity if you need to refresh your recollection, but you also have the opportunity from the other side, from the defense, to attack any inconsistencies in her testimony as compared to the notes that she took contemporaneous with the issues and incidents at the time.
I'm still waiting for the punchline in this witness testimony. We're early on, but she's kind of sounding like a defense witness at this point in time. And speaking of, what do you make of the state's case in Georgia? Have they met their burden?
Well, that's the fundamental issue, right, Matt? I mean, that's what a jury ultimately has to decide. Have they proven beyond a reasonable doubt? And the charges here are serious, second-degree murder and manslaughter. And so that burden is difficult to meet under any circumstances, let alone in a situation where you're not directly the person who was the perpetrator of the shooting, but in fact, provided the mechanism to carry it out. These cases are difficult. There's only been a couple of them, as we know. Some have been successfully prosecuted. Others have ended up in pleas. The question is, what does prosecuting a parent of a shooter do? Does it deter future shooters? I don't think that it does. I don't think that these perpetrators, normally young people, are thinking about the consequences of it for themselves, let alone the consequences for their family. So I'm not sure, where this all leads, but these cases are interesting in what prosecutors are trying to do here.
All right, Matthew Mangino, you're going to be sticking with us. Thank you for that analysis. We do have to take a break. Still ahead, the defendant's mother-in-law is asked about the FBI tip that eventually led to police knocking on the defendant's door a year before that deadly mass shooting. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Matt Johnson. Thanks for being with us. We are in the state of Georgia for day 5 of testimony in the Gave My Son a Gun murder trial. Colin Gray is accused of giving his son the gun that was used in a school mass shooting at Apalachee High School back in 2024, where 2 teachers and 2 students were murdered. On the stand right now is the defendant's mother-in-law. Let's watch.
So you're saying that night?
You're welcome. Y'all are welcome to look at them.
Okay. Thank you. And that was November of 2021? So would that have been shortly in time after the defects became involved? Okay. And where did the family move to?
They moved to Jefferson.
Okay. how much contact did you have with the family when they moved up to Jefferson?
I still tried to go up about once every 6 weeks.
Okay.
They
And
were a little farther away, so I didn't go quite as much.
okay. At some point, does Marcy, Jenny, and little Coley move back down to Fitzgerald? Do you remember when that was, or is that in your notes?
That was in November, a year later.
A year later? Okay. And where did Colt go?
Colt wanted to stay with his dad.
Okay.
I told him he was welcome to come, but I think he wanted to stay with his dad because his mom and the other two would not be there.
Okay.
You know, it'd be a little calmer.
Okay. So
At least that's what he told me.
okay. So in November of 22, Marcy and the other two kids come back down to you. They move back into your
To my
mother's
mom's
house.
house.
Okay. And then Colt's up here. How much contact are you having with Colt that period of time?
I was not having a lot because Marcy was really strong on the drugs, and I finally moved them to my house.
Okay.
Because I needed to be able to take care of the kids without running back and forth. So they moved to my house, and
When you say they, did all three?
all
or just
three
the
of
kid?
them.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right.
And Marcy, for the next 6 weeks, pretty much stayed in the bed,
Okay.
getting clean, withdrawing. But it was easier for me to be able to take the kids to school, pick them up, all that. And so they stayed with me for maybe 6 or 8 weeks, and then they moved back to my mom's house.
Okay. So because of this, you weren't able to.
And I was going to say, to answer your question, I was not able to go up and down a lot with Colt. I bought Colt a phone, and I got him a card that he could use to call me. And I said, put it up, and if you need me, if you want to talk, call me.
Okay.
And he did call me some, but not a lot.
So during that time, did you find out, or were you told about law enforcement coming to the house about an FBI tip?
No.
Okay.
Colt didn't share a lot with me. I asked him after he went to the detention center why, and he said, I just didn't want to bother you. I didn't want to worry you.
Okay.
So I honestly didn't find out about that for quite a while.
Okay. During the time that Colt is up here with Colin, are you also communicating with Colin?
Yeah, we would text back and forth.
And what types of things?
He would text me, well, more of the texts that we had were later, but he texted me to let me know that he was getting enrolled in school, and he texted me to let me know that they were settled and he was doing good. We didn't have a lot of communication during that time.
Okay.
Most of ours was after they moved to Winder.
Okay. Did he ever tell you about the law enforcement coming to the house?
I honestly do not remember who told me about it.
Okay. Did you find out about it before or after the shooting at Apalachee High School?
Before.
Now, at some point, Colt, then Colin moved to Winder, Georgia. All right. And Colt actually leaves to come to Fitzgerald?
He came to Fitzgerald during the summer and stayed for a while.
Okay. About how long did he stay there?
5 or 6 weeks, I would guess. I was in Florida a lot during that time because my other daughter was in Michigan in training for her job, so I was down there keeping the kids. And
Did Colt get in trouble down there with you guys?
he did.
Tell us about that.
I was not there. Colt, I know that Marcy was still doing a lot of drinking, and Colt just could not handle that. And I know that started it. I know that she called my husband and had him come over. He called the police.
What was the purpose of calling the police? What had happened?
Well, I think Marcy told him that Colt had hit her, but I'm not sure about that. But something happened with them. They got into an altercation,
Was Colt damaging property in the house?
He did, apparently. He cut holes in the couch. But I have to tell you, this all took place while I wasn't there, so I never saw any of it.
Did you see the damage to the couch?
I saw the cuts to the couch.
Okay, and what was he cutting the couch with?
I don't know. I would assume a knife.
Okay.
It looked like slit marks.
Okay.
Marcy and I were not on the most conversational level at that point.
Did you have tensions with you and Marcy? Okay. Did Colt ever do anything to hurt himself while he was down there?
He did. I did not know about it, and I did not see it until Colt showed it to me and at the juvenile center.
And what did he show you?
He showed me the places that he had cut himself.
Okay. And that.
Hitting the pause button, coming up, more key testimony from the accused school shooter's grandma, who tells the jury about major problems at home. This is Court TV Live, your front row seat to justice. In 2021, Dee Warner vanished without a trace.
Dale Warner. He's accused of murdering his wife, Dee. Rumors of a troubled marriage spread throughout this small community.
She had contemplated divorce several times.
Now, after years of searching for Dee Warner,
her remains are found on the couple's property, sealed inside a welded shut storage tank.
We're still going to fight to the end to see that she gets her justice.
The hidden murder of Dee Warner. Live coverage today on Court TV.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Matt Johnson. Now back to the state of Georgia for more key testimony in the Gave My Son a Gun murder trial. Prosecutors say Colin Gray gave his son the gun used in the 2024 school shooting that left 4 people dead, including 2 students and 2 teachers. He faces up to life behind bars if convicted, charged with 29 counts, including 2 counts of second-degree murder. His son, Colt Gray, has been charged as an adult, but his trial going second, trial date yet to be determined. Let's do this. Let's bring in my guest for this hour, watching along with you at home, criminal defense attorney and former district attorney Matthew Mangino. All right, is this witness moving the needle at all? What are you watching for?
Well, yeah, I think this witness is laying the groundwork for just how troubled Colt Gray was during this period when his father had purchased him an AR-15. And so, she sees it. She talks about him cutting himself. She talks about him acting out, cutting up the couch, doing different things that are potentially alarming. The parents are in some ways incapacitated, the mother certainly. And so she's laying the groundwork for the prosecution to point out that Colt had problems. The parents, particularly the father, should have recognized these problems. And certainly the last thing that he should have done was to buy him an AR-15.
Yeah, and you know what? We're hearing that dear old mom might be the next witness. What are you expecting from her testimony? Could she be the final witness?
Well, that's interesting. I mean, we've heard from a lot of witnesses in this case, and they talked about crime scene and different evidence that was accumulated in the whole underlying murders, mass murders in this case. But those really aren't that relevant to this. Certainly the victims are, but what we need to know is, what did the father know? What should have the father known about his son? And was it reckless to put an automatic weapon in his hand while he's going through what appears to be, from the grandmother, obvious mental health issues?
Well, this jury will decide. Matthew, thank you. Let's head back to court now and watch more testimony from this defendant's mother-in-law.
That happened down there in Fitzgerald?
Down there. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So he came and stayed with us for a few days, and then I think, if I remember correctly, Coley and I met halfway, and he got him.
Okay, so at some point he goes back to live. Now you say Coley. Do you refer to Colin Gray as Coley?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, not your. Yeah. Whatever you call him is fine. I just want everybody else to know who you're referring to.
Yeah.
Okay. So you took Colt halfway up to Winder. Mr. Gray came down and met y'all.
Yeah, I think that's what happened.
Okay.
I know at one point we did that, but I'm not sure if that was the time we did it.
Okay. Moving your attention further to October 13th of 2023, what happened then?
That was when defects tested Marcy for drugs.
Where were you at that time?
My husband and I were in Virginia.
Okay.
I called DFACS and told them that we were going to be out of town for a week. Mm-hmm. And it was the first time I'd left the kids for that length of time. And I asked them if they would please do a check just to make sure the kids were okay.
Okay.
And they did.
And they tested her for drugs?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. When you got back, how long was it before you got back after that day?
That was the 13th. I think we came home like the 15th.
Okay.
Coley had just come and gotten the kids.
I was about to say, the kids were already gone by the time you got back? Okay. And as far as you understood, the kids had moved up to Winder with Mr. Okay. How did Marcy take that?
Well, she was not happy about it.
Okay. And did that come to a head in November?
Yeah.
Tell me about what happened there.
Marcy got, I don't know what she was taking, but I had been at Annie's with the kids.
That's your other daughter?
Yeah. And I was coming home, and when I got home, she asked me to walk outside with her, and I did, and she said, get in the car. And I said, where are we going? And she said, just get in the car. I said, no, I'm not getting in the car. And I said, where do you want to go? And she said, I'm going to Winder.
When she refers to the car, whose car is she talking about?
She was talking about my car.
Okay. Does she have a car?
She did, but I found out later that hers didn't have any gas in it.
Okay.
So I told her no, that I was not going to get in the car and was not going to Winder. And she said, I'm going up there and I'm going to kill him. I said, no, you're not. You're not going up there. You're not going to kill him. You're not going to traumatize your children. You're staying here. And I turned around and went back in the house. And she followed me back in the house. And she had a fire burning. And we found out later that she had burned, my younger daughter was a soccer player. Mm-hmm. She had burned all of her soccer jerseys, all of her pictures, all of her personal things in the fireplace. And then she went in our office and called me in there, and there was a chair sitting there with a blanket on it. She said, I want you to sit down. I said, for what? And she said, I know you're going to call the police as soon as I leave, and I'm not going to let you do that. So I sat down and she taped me. And I didn't fight her because I have worked with emotionally disturbed children long enough to know that when somebody's in that state, you don't get physical with them. And I was not going to do something that would get me hurt. So she taped me up and she switched car tags, put mine on her car, and left.
In your car?
No, she went in her car. She got money out of my wallet to put gas in it.
Okay, so she put your tag on her car, took money from you to buy gas, and then...
She switched the tags because her tag had been flagged. Okay. And I didn't find that out until later. I didn't know what was going on. I heard her banging around in the house, and then she left.
How did you get free?
My younger daughter called. I didn't call her when I got home. I always called her. And she started calling my phone, and I wasn't answering. So she just figured I'd gone to bed. So the next morning, she still couldn't get me on the phone, so she called.
You're still in the chair the next morning? Okay.
She called her best friend, who lives 3 houses down from us, and said, I need you to...
Approaching the top of the hour, our thanks to Matthew Mangino for being my guest. Coming up, more from this defendant's mother-in-law in the trial for Colin Gray. This is Court TV Live, your front row seat to justice. Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Matt Johnson. Busy Friday. Thanks for being with us. We are tracking several major cases from coast to coast here at Court TV. In the state of Georgia, it's day 5 of testimony for the father accused of gifting his son a gun that was used in a deadly school shooting that left 4 people dead. In Michigan, the state's case continues for the husband accused of killing his wife and hiding her body in a fertilizer tank. Right now, the jury hearing testimony from one of the Warners' former employees. But let's begin this hour in the state of Georgia for more testimony from a key witness in the Gave My Son a Gun murder trial for Colin Gray. On the stand right now is the defendant's mother-in-law. Let's get you back to court.
She called her best friend, who lives 3 houses down from us, and said, I need you to go to my house and check on my mama.
Where was your husband at this time?
He was in Virginia playing golf with our son.
Okay.
So she said, check the car first. If her person's stuff is still in the car, there's something wrong. So she did, and then Annie stayed on the phone with her and said, I want you to go in the house and look around and see what you see. And Mary Beth is the one who found me.
Okay. Did you call the police?
Mary Beth did. I told her, I said, I have to go take a shower. I can't do anything until I take a shower and clean myself up. And then I told Annie, I said, y'all just stay on the phone. And then somebody came to the house and was beating on the front door. Mm-hmm. And it scared Mary Beth, so Annie called the police.
Okay. At some point, you find out that Marcy has been arrested up here. Mm-hmm. Okay. And does she eventually end up back down in Ben Hill? Mm-hmm. Tell me about how that happened.
Well, they put her in jail here for what she did to Coley's truck. Mm-hmm. And then she went to court, and they gave her fines and all that, but they did the first felony, whatever that is, so she didn't have to stay in jail. So we had her transferred from Winder to Fitzgerald.
Because there were charges for her?
There were charges for her down there, and they wanted her down there. Okay. So they transported her there. And then I left her in jail for a couple of months. My husband didn't like it, but I told him, I said, she needs to get clean, and she's not going to get clean any other place. She may not even get clean in jail. But she was in jail altogether 5 months, maybe, something like that. And then she asked me if I would consider helping her get into rehab. Mm-hmm. I told her I would, so I found a rehab, and I talked to the sheriff, and he said they would transport her to rehab. Okay. They did not want her to come home. But my husband insisted that she come home, so she came home for 3 days, and then we took her to rehab.
Where was the rehab located at?
The rehab is located in a little bitty town called Glenville, which is about an hour and a half from west of Savannah.
Okay. And when was it that she went into the rehab? Do you remember?
May, maybe.
Okay.
Sometime in May.
So from November of when she was arrested up here till May, she's been in jail somewhere.
Maybe April, I can't remember which.
And then from there, she goes into a rehab facility. Is this a rehab facility she can come and go as she pleases, or is she?
No, they were required to stay there, and they had to work. Mm-hmm. So we could go and visit her, mm-hmm. but she couldn't leave.
Okay.
Or she was not supposed to leave.
Okay. And when did she get out of rehab, do you know?
She didn't get out, she left.
Okay. And how did she leave?
She called me on Friday night and told me that she wanted to transfer to a rehab up around Winder. Mm-hmm. She couldn't go to Barrow County, but she was looking at Clark
Was she banished from Barrow County?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I told her to give me a few days and we'd look around and see what we could find. And I'd get back with her. So then she called Coley and told Coley that her dad and I said it was okay for her to leave.
I'm going to object. It seems like this would be hearsay at this point.
What's your response?
She wandered a little further than anticipated, Your
I'll
Honor.
sustain the objection.
It's fine. How did she get out of, like, who picked
Coley
her up?
went and got her. She called him and told him that we had agreed to let her leave, so he went and got her.
Okay. And where does she go at that point?
She went back to Wander.
Okay. So, is this the house that Colt and Jenny and little Coley and Colin Gray that you referred to as Coley also?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to take you back in time now to Christmas of 2023. So this would have been after Marcy has duct taped you and stole your car, stole your money, and she's in jail. Okay. Do you go visit the kids in Winder with Colin around Christmas time?
I went the day after Christmas, I think.
Okay. And I want to show you, does this have the diagram from Apalachee? I'm going to pull up the diagram that we used with a prior witness. I know this isn't to scale, but is this kind of accurate as to what the house looked like?
Yes.
Okay. Was that your first time visiting that house that Christmas? You'd been before that too?
Yes.
Okay. So we have things listed. You got the carport in the garage, the laundry room, kitchen, living room. Where it says subjects room, they're referring to Colt. Was that Colt's room as you remember it?
Yes.
Okay. And in the back left, it says siblings room. Is that where Jenny stayed? Okay. And then on the right back, it says father's room. Who stayed in father's room?
He and little Coley.
Okay. So Colin Gray and little Coley both stayed in that room. Okay. Thank you. Did Colt talk to you about a Christmas present he had gotten?
Sure.
Okay. And what was that Christmas present?
There was a gun.
Okay. And was it a rifle?
Yes.
Okay. Who did you get the Christmas present from?
From his dad.
Okay. While you were up there, how long did you stay up there at Christmas time?
I don't know, 3 or 4 days. I usually stayed 4 or 5 days.
Okay. Where was the gun kept at that time?
I honestly don't know. He came out into the living area with it and went back down the hall, but I didn't follow him, so I don't know if it was in his room or in Coley's room at that time.
Did you see it? Did you go back up there after Christmas? How often would you go up there after Christmas?
I went back for Colt's birthday. His birthday was 14th of January.
Okay, so shortly after Christmas. Okay, where was the Colt gun at that time?
It was in Colt's room.
It was in Colt's room? Okay.
I'm pretty sure it was. I couldn't swear to it.
And when would be the next time you went up there?
Probably sometime in February. I tried to go about once a month after they moved up there.
Okay, so once a month?
Yeah.
And whenever you went up there, where was the gun?
I never really looked for it. Sometimes, the couple of times I did see it, it was in Colt's room in the corner.
Okay.
Propped up in the corner.
Okay. Do you remember giving a statement to an investigator with the Bexar County Sheriff's Office on September 9th of 2024? Do you remember talking to Jason Smith with the Bexar County Sheriff's Office? Do you remember talking to him about these times you would go up there and where the gun was located?
talked to so many of them, I don't remember what I said to which one, honestly.
If I were to show you a transcript of that, would it refresh your memory?
I'm sure it would.
Okay. Starting around here, read all the yellow down.
All of it?
Yes, ma'am. You read yourself. See if it refreshes your memory.
Coming up, more key testimony in Colin Gray's trial about the grandma and her notice of increased interest in the rifle by her grandson, the alleged school shooter in the case. This is Court TV Live, your front row seat to justice.
This is the story of the Richins. Eric, a father of 3, met an untimely end, and Corey, his widow, wrote a children's book on grief.
She's also charged now with his murder.
He was faced with betrayal and terror.
I know her innocence.
Is their story a tragic romance?
Or a twisted tale of grief?
The truth will come out.
The Grief Author Murder Trial. Live coverage begins Monday morning, 8/7 Central on Court TV.
School shooter is facing 29 counts, including 2 counts second-degree murder, for his alleged role in the mass shooting at Apalachee High School that left 4 people dead. Prosecutors say Colin Gray gifted his son a gun, even though he was aware of severe mental health issues. Let's get you back into court now. Key witness on the stand, the defendant's mother-in-law.
Does it refresh your memory?
Yeah.
Okay. And so when you would go up there once every month or so, where was the gun kept?
It was in his room.
In Colt's room? Mm-hmm. Was it in Colt's room every time you went up there?
According to that, it does, and I'm sure that's a lot fresher memory than I've got now.
Okay. So
I do know
when you say according to that, you're talking
time.
about your statement to...
Yeah.
And that was, what, a year and a half ago? That you gave the statement about a year and a half ago?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so what you're talking about is 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Okay. Or 3 years ago. So whatever's in here is more accurate?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
And so if it says every time I went up there I saw it in Colt's room, that would be what you believe to be accurate? Mm-hmm. I'm sorry.
Yes,
You say yes.
sorry.
It's just because she's writing it down.
Okay.
We all know what that means, but it's for the record. I'm sorry. Did you, that January for Colt's birthday, after he got the gun, what did he want from you for Christmas?
I gave him
Or for his
money.
birthday, I'm sorry, for his birthday.
I gave him money. He wanted bullets.
He wanted bullets? Okay. And did you check with anyone to see if that was appropriate?
I told him he had to ask his dad.
Okay.
And if it was okay with his dad, I would buy them for him as long as they used them at the shooting range.
Okay.
Coley thanked me for having him ask him, and said it was fine that they go to the shooting range. So we went to one of the sporting goods places and bought them.
Okay, so you bought ammunition for Colt, but it was because Colin said you could.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, we're going to skip forward again now. So, that's the same time period. So now, Colt has been removed from Marcy. All the kids have been removed from Marcy. They're up here in Winder. You have that Christmas. You have his birthday in January 14th, is that correct? So now we're in 2024. Colt's 14. Okay. Is Colt going to school?
No.
Are any of the kids going to school?
Jenny and Coley were.
In January?
Oh, I don't know. I think they got registered and started in February, if I remember correctly.
And how did that process happen, them getting registered? Who did that?
My daughter did a lot of it.
Okay, and that would be by your daughter. You have 2 daughters.
Annie, I'm sorry.
Annie, Colt's aunt?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
She's a computer whiz, and I just get bogged down, and Colby was working. So I called her and asked her if she would help get it all done, and she did.
All right, thank you. Now, so when Annie's registering, she's registering all 3 kids? Okay. Does Colt ever actually attend school?
No.
Okay. Were you helping the family financially at this time?
When Coley needed me to, I did.
Okay, so if he needed, and by Coley you mean Colin Gray?
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. You can do that. I'm just making sure everybody understands what you're talking about. You just talk like you normally talk. I'm not trying to correct you. But you're talking about Colin. If he needed something money-wise, food for the kids, light bill, rent, anything, could he ask you?
Yeah.
And did he routinely ask you?
He asked me several times.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you always come through? Okay.
But I'm sorry.
That's fine. Thank you. So now let's fast forward to, we've gone through the summer. Marcy is now up here. She's left rehab. She's up here. How did Colt get enrolled in school that time?
He was already enrolled. You mean for the ninth grade?
For Apalachee, that school year.
I don't know. I just assumed that the paperwork from the middle school would transfer over to the high school.
So you're not aware of how that happened? Okay, that's fine. Now, I want to take your attention to Thursday, August 15th. And just to set the stage, and Marcy's up here, right? Is that correct? Okay. Do you get a call from Colt about Marcy? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do.
Okay. Tell me about that.
Colt called me, I want to say it was during the night, and he said, Mamu, I don't know what's wrong with my mother, but you need to come and get her.
We'll have to object unless they plan on bringing Colt in to testify.
All right, so there's a hearsay objection. What's your response?
Your Honor, it's not for the truth of the matter asserted. He's asking her to come get his mother, and so it's why did she do what she did next?
Well, Judge, the truth of the matter asserted is it doesn't cover everything. We can't get into everything just because they're not going to say it's not truth. There's got to be some limitations.
Your Honor, there are lots of limitations, and I'm not going into those limitations.
I can't assess without knowing what the statement is.
Your Honor, the statement she said was that he asked her to come get his mother. And her next thing she's going to talk about is going up there to get the mother. So the reason for the statement is to explain why she's doing what she's doing next. A request is not a statement, so therefore it wouldn't be hearsay.
What's your response, Mr. Gray?
Judge, my response is he can ask her based on the conversation that you had with Colt, did you come up and get Marcy?
Well, that's still me going into the contents of it, Your Honor.
She's saying what Colt said. That makes the difference.
Yes, except the value here are the words that are being spoken. It's what he said to her caused her to do something. It's not being offered to. He didn't give a reason. That you're not asking for a reason why. Is that right? Just that he called and said, "Come get her."
I think she put something in there, but that's not the, like I said, it's not the purpose of it.
So I'll permit it. If the response is Colt asked me to come get her, then I'll permit that and say that's not hearsay. If there's more to it than that, then I would need to hear that.
Did you get a call from Colt?
Yes.
Did he ask you to come get his mother? Okay.
Excuse me.
When he asked you, did he say anything about having a physical altercation with Marcy involving a gun?
I'm sorry, yes.
He did?
Yes.
Okay.
Wait, you said on the phone call, did he
Yes,
say
ma'am.
something about having an altercation? No.
Thank you. Okay.
No, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. I thought I was getting in trouble. I was not trying to
misconstrued
elicit
that.
the content. I was trying to elicit the absence of
No,
content.
he just said, come get her.
Okay. Thank you. So do you go get her?
Mm-hmm.
And when was that?
The next day.
Okay, so that would have been the 16th.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Key testimony there out of Georgia. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to tell you about that shot that we saw. So you can see where the journalists are seated in the gallery. They're in the front row because everyday people are not allowed to use laptops or cell phones in a courtroom in the state of Georgia. So that's pretty interesting. The other thing I just want to talk about, what we just heard in this key testimony. So let's bring in my guest for this hour here to discuss. We have from Martinez, California, criminal defense attorney Alan Kagawa. Thank you for being with us. So we're hearing a lot about the trouble at home and then the purchase of the weapon, and grandma gets permission from this defendant to hand over money. The money's going to be used to buy bullets.
Absolutely. So I think what the state's really trying to do at this point is they really laid out the tragedy of the shooting prior to this. I'd say at this particular point, they're really trying to build a case showing that Colin was especially reckless or negligent in allowing Colt to have specific items, and in particular, that he was the one who gave permission for his grandmother to specifically give money that would be used to buy bullets in this case.
Yeah, and let's just review with our audience the signs ignored by Colin Gray, the allegations made by this state for negligence. Let's put it on your screen, including this. Colt had a shrine of Nicholas Cruz in his bedroom. Colt searched how to kill your dad while at school. That was in 2021 before the incident in question. The FBI received a tip about threats of a shooting at a school at Colt's address. Goes on to say Colt missed most of the 8th grade year and had been cutting, hurting himself, breaking windows. And at one point, leading up to this shooting, he said that he was having voices in his head, that he was hearing things. So these are the signs alleged by the state. We're getting close to the end of the state's case in chief. Your thoughts?
I'd say at this particular case, there was a substantial amount of evidence that Colin was essentially either negligent or basically that there were so many warning signs, and the fact that he ignored so many of these really looks particularly bad in this case, and it's going to be up to defense to put on a very strong counter to this.
Yeah, and quickly before I go to break, do you think that they will put on a case? Do you think this defendant may testify?
It's going to be quite risky in this particular case, but given the amount of evidence, I think if they do not have him testify, they're going to need to bring in a lot of witnesses to really explain how, despite all these warning signs, he still thought it was proper for his son to have a gun and for his son to have bullets.
All right, Alan, you're going to be sticking with us all hour long. The great analysis there. Coming up, more testimony from the defendant's mother-in-law in the Gave My Son a Gun murder trial playing out in Georgia. This is Court TV Live, your front row seat to justice. Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Matt Johnson. Thanks for being with us. Today is day 5 of testimony in the Gave My Son a Gun murder trial playing out in the state of Georgia, where Colin Gray is charged with 2 counts second-degree murder and 2 counts involuntary manslaughter for gifting his son a gun after prosecutors say he ignored warning signs. 4 people were killed in that deadly school shooting. On the stand right now is the defendant's mother-in-law. Let's get you back to court.
Had Colt texted you that morning while you were coming up?
He did.
Based on that text, where did you think Colt physically was?
At school.
Okay. When you arrived, who was at the house?
Colt was, but we did not know it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Who else was there?
Marcy.
When you say Colt was there, but we did not know it, do you mean we did not know he would be there, or when you got there, you still did not know he was there?
I still did not know. I thought he was in school.
Okay. What did you do when you got there? What were y'all doing?
We went in the house, told Marcy to get her stuff together. We were going back to Fitzgerald.
Okay. And did she begin packing her stuff? Okay. Did y'all help her pack? Where were you standing while she was
We
packing?
were in Coley's room. I was sitting on the bed. Charlie was just walking around.
And is that where her stuff was, in Coley's room?
What she was getting at that time.
Okay. Did you see Colt at all?
No.
Okay. You have any knowledge that he was in the house at that time? Okay.
No, I thought he was in school, so we didn't even look.
Okay. He didn't come out and say, "Hey, Mamu"? Okay. Was there damage to the door to Jenny's bedroom? Okay. And I'm sorry, I will need you to say it out loud.
Yes.
Thank you. Was there discussion between you, your husband, and Marcy about the damage to the door to Jenny's room while you were in the house?
Marcy and her daddy talked about it.
Okay, thank you. When you were leaving, did you see Colt?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
We were getting in the car and he opened the door.
The door of what?
The back door.
The back door of the house? Okay.
He had overheard a conversation she and her daddy were having, and it really upset him, and he was just yelling, "Don't come back, you lied to me, you're making all this up, don't you call defects on my daddy."
What was his demeanor like?
He was just upset.
Okay. Was he furious?
I would say probably yes, he was.
Okay. And did he threaten to kill you all?
I honestly don't remember if he said that or not.
Okay. If you had said it at one of these earlier interviews, would that be?
Oh, yeah.
It would be more accurate?
It would be accurate, yeah.
Okay. Did you tell Colin about this, what he said?
I can't remember if I did or not. We talked to him and went by to see him to take some medicine. And I figured that Marcy probably told him. I don't remember if I told him or not.
Okay.
I don't remember if I talked to him during that time.
This was upsetting to everyone that Colt's come out yelling.
Oh, yeah. It was to them.
Okay. And so y'all leave at that point?
Yep.
Are you in communications with Colin during that drive, or someone in the car in communications with Colin during that drive after Colt?
Marcy was. We went by to see him, and Marcy, they talked for a while. I honestly don't remember if I talked to him or not.
Okay. And where was he? You say you went by to see him. Where did you go?
He was at work.
Okay. And did you give him anything for Colt when you went to the work?
Marcy gave him some medicine.
What kind of medicine?
Zoloft.
And whose medicine was that?
Marcy's.
Okay. And what was the purpose of giving it to him?
Because Marcy had been giving it to Colt.
Okay. And so what was the instructions to him about that Zoloft?
I assumed to continue giving it.
Okay.
I wasn't in on the conversation.
Now, at this point, would it be safe to say that Colt's mental and emotional health is kind of spiraling?
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'm sorry, just yes or no?
Yes, I'm sorry.
It's okay. And even before this, had he routinely had violent outbursts?
Yes.
Okay. And you and Colin had actually spoken about Colt's mental health?
Mm-hmm.
And again, yes? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. It's okay. It happens to everybody. Did you talk to Colin about Colt needing professional help for this?
We did talk about it. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did you tell, when you stopped off to give the Zoloft to Colin, did you tell Colin about what Colt had done when y'all were getting in the house?
I didn't talk to him.
You didn't talk to him?
No,
Okay.
we stayed in the car. Marcy, he was working around in the back of the fire station.
Okay.
Marcy talked to him.
Did you get, after you left, did you get text from Colt during this time, on the 16th, hold on just a second. Wrong page. Sorry. Thank you. Show you what's already in the evidence in State Civil 158. These are text messages from Colt's phone to you. Colt would be where it says owner in the green, and then your grandma in the blue.
Before those are published, we're going to object to those. These are text messages. Colin is not part of that text chain. They are between Colt and his grandmother. The statements that are made, we don't have an opportunity to have Colt come in and testify about what was going on, why he was saying these things. So it puts us in a pretty precarious position, especially the fact that we don't believe that Debbie ever communicated any of these things that were said to Colin. So that makes it even more of a problem. So we would object to any and all text messages that the state plans to put in.
So the objection is essentially their hearsay.
Yeah, their hearsay, Judge. Correct.
Your Honor, if I could, I would like to lay the foundation for their accuracy, and then I will let you look through them. And once you've looked through them, then I will explain the relevance of them before I post them to the jury.
Okay, so yeah, presently don't go through the content or publish it to the jury.
Have you had a chance to look through them? Do they accurately reflect the conversation you were having by text with Colt as you're on your way up and leaving the house? I'm sorry, yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So at this time, Your Honor, you can flip through those, and then we'll go through the contents of them.
There's a number of them here. Y'all just go ahead and take a recess while I look through these, and I'm sure we'll have some arguments. Take a short recess.
Okay, so they're going to take a short recess. This is a good time to bring back my guest, criminal defense attorney in California, Alan Kagawa. So you got to follow the rules of evidence, and if we can't call the other defendant who is set to go on trial, we don't know when, the alleged school shooter, to say that these text messages are authentic. Yeah, I mean, this should have been done before we got to this point, don't you think?
You're absolutely right. Oftentimes, you know, when it comes to matters like this, you usually address through initial motions that are often addressed, you know, day one of trial, day two of trial, usually outside the presence of the jury so that we don't have a break like this and we don't disrupt someone's testimony.
Yeah, key witness. We're disrupting the flow here for the state that's supposed to be wrapping it up, maybe after dear old mom takes the stand. What are you expecting from her?
You know, what I'm potentially expecting is there's a hidden concern here, which is in the opening statement, the defense sort of alluded to the idea that potentially it was the mom who was aware of things and not actually Colin. I suspect that the testimony here is really going to double down on the fact that Colin was aware of all the red flags that were presented in this case, and that therefore he is the one who's responsible and not the mom.
You know, Alan, that's the reason why I expected her as being called as a defense witness if they so choose to put on a case, which is not their burden. But, you know, I'm wondering if the mom might not want to answer certain questions.
I think I think you have an excellent point. I think the mom may be very hesitant to answer a number of questions. There was extreme concerns regarding her ability to parent that were brought up by this grandmother. There were issues regarding potentially, I think, drug use, her needing to go to rehab, and she may very well, in fact, be guilty of some crimes, perhaps not to the level of Colin, but perhaps things like child abuse.
Yeah, we don't know. We're not saying that. We'll see what happens. We'll see what she says on the stand.
Understood.